Hey guys, today we are taking a look at the NECA Toys Alien Covenant NEOMORPH. Just give me one sec. I've got something up here we're going to use to stand it on. This is not a product placement, but I'm using a David Beckham set because I got it for Christmas and I just haven't had time to... I just haven't got a stand for him at the moment. I don't even have a stand for my camera, so I'm literally using two DVD boxes prepped on the corners. This figure, this is just wow. Now, you do get some accessories, we are going to talk about those, but the Alien Covenant NEOMORPH, in my opinion, is one of the best, sorry, I'm just moving my position at the moment, one of the best figures NECA's done of a non-xenomorph creature. This thing, as you can see, the pose that I've just got in, I love how it can do this, because it actually does do this in the movie. This is a great piece. I do have 2 complaints with it. Maybe 3, yeah. That's it, though. And they're very minor things. Well, one's not. One's moderate. One is very, very little. And the accessory, one of them I do have a bit of a complaint with, but we'll get that off in a minute. But this is actually a specific version of the NEOMORPH. This is, but we'll get into that. So before we get onto the actual figure, we will get onto the main accessory. Now, I'll just come with another piece, but I'm going to show that later, because that actually plays into his head. It's not a gimmick, but I think it's pretty cool. So this is the Bloodburster. Just show it up here. Very nicely done for its size. It's very tiny, as you can see. Now, this thing here has, well, in the movie, basically there were these spores on the ground made by chemical A0, also known as the black goo. Most people call it black goo because its actual formula name is so frigging long. And basically, the spores, if you disturbed them, they would release little motes that would get in your orifices. So in Ledwood, I think it was in his ear. And this thing started to gestate in his back. And just Google Alien Covenant backburster scene and you'll know. Because when I was in the cinema, I fucking yelled my head off of how gross it was. It was the most disgusting thing I had ever seen in an Alien movie. Out of all the Alien movies, I'd say that's one thing Alien Covenant did with flying colours was the gore. This figure, however, doesn't do it very well. The blood paint is frankly stupid. It's too bright. Fortunately, I have some Special Games Workshop paint, which is, you know, a realistic blood colour. And I will be doing, you know, this with that. So I'm painting all of these bloody areas. And this thing's really nice. It has the spikes, which are soft rubber, so you won't have to worry about them breaking. And you can clearly see the glue seam there. But it's not the end of the world. And this thing does have some articulation. Let me just move myself. You get a swivel at the head, so... Exorcist twist, and I like how you can actually sort of see the mouth there. Yeah, you can sort of see the mouth. Arms don't move, but the legs do. They go forward and back individually. And the tail has a swivel with no bendy wire. You could probably heat form this into a different position. Standing this guy, this is the one complaint I have with it, and it's also the same with the bigger one. In certain poses, they don't stand. I mean, I got lucky here, but that's pretty good for him. Now, to compare him to the older version, you can clearly... You see what I mean? He doesn't like to stand. But yeah, you can clearly see there is a massive size difference. Just bringing in Corporal Hicks for a minute, just because we're going to use him for a size comparison. Now, the Big Daddy himself. Well, not the big guy, but Big Daddy. Sorry, I can't think. Now, there's actually another complaint I've just remembered. And it's part of the... Well, it's sort of part of the sculpt, partly articulation. Sculpt is great. Until you get to the hips, and I know what you're thinking, wait, the hips are pretty good, they've got hip bones. The joints are frigging visible. Yeah, the ball joints are very obvious on this figure. It's not great. However, the head is fantastic. I actually prefer this head now, just because it's way more mysterious looking. The other head's pretty good. Now, here's the snag with this thing. So, to change it, I'm just going to move the arms out of the way. They are on a hinge. Grab it, pull, and I can't really show this on camera, but jeez, this is my main complaint with this figure. The head's very hard to interchange. It's a ball peg with a disc hinge, but the result is, if I pop this alternate head in, it has the protruding goblin shark phalangal jaw, or however the hell you pronounce it. I'm going to paint the teeth because they need to be silver, whereas this has bony coloured teeth. And here's this head. Now this is more suited for aggressive poses. I do like this, but that jaw does not stick out far enough. It really needs to stick out a lot more. I may try and do something about that. Because it was quite, when the captain, Oren, was shooting this thing, it did stick out quite prominently. Like a good third more, so. And it looks like it's got a bit more sculpt in there, so I could probably just pop it off, whip it out and glue it in a bit more of a stuck out position. It does look really good though. You can see the ear hole there. Now, there is a big seam line across here, because obviously the bottom half is used. Now, it's not so prominent on this head. I mean, it's there, it's sitting up more on camera, but in real life you can barely see it unless you look at the back. But here's a look at that head, as you can see. Now, the rest of the body is really well done. It looks like this flesh is stretched over the bone. Outside the box review said it was like painted on the bone, but I think it's more stretched over because the ribs are very, very prominent on this. The hands... The hands are some messed up stuff. 5 frigging fingers and a thumb. Now this is the version that came from Ledwood's back, because it has the spikes. You can modify it so that it doesn't have, so you know, you just cut all these off and then put an extra one on this part, and it'll be the one that came from the other guy's mouth. Can't remember his name. It does have peg holes, but I don't like where they're placed. If you were to stand it on a stand, you would have to stand it in a stupid position. Like that. With his feet flat. But he never stands like that in the movie. He never stands like that. Fortunately, you can use the tail as a sort of balancer, which is, I think, what most people end up doing. He stands a lot. Like, if I just pop the alternate head on, because that's, in the movie when you see the other one, that is more accurate. Plus both heads have the same articulation anyway, so. I much prefer the other head, the closed mouth head. It just looks weirder, more mysterious. Doesn't quite give away. They do stand quite, well, I mean, it's not working now because it's on camera, but legs are a tad bit loose at the hip joints, but that's a common thing. He stands more like that on his tiptoes. Very straight up tall. Now, a size comparison with Corporal Hicks. Yeah, these guys, these neomorphs, for just get the camera here, these neomorphs do not, this is another problem I have. His size is not great. The neomorph is supposed to tower over humans. It doesn't tower over bloody Dwayne Hicks here. And now Michael Biehn is not the tallest, he's not tall. If it was Sigourney Weaver, it'd be a bit different because Sigourney Weaver's very tall. Here he is compared to the concept warrior from Aliens, the one that came in the Burke 2-pack. And neither want to fecking stand, because they're both being plebs today. But here's this guy. His head doesn't even reach the frigging camera. He's a big figure, and he's the best quality xenomorph I've ever owned, actually. Lots to praise about him. Go watch that review. It's a few weeks back, and fucking all these legs. This is towering. Now, there's not much difference there, but if I was to compare Hicks to this guy, that is how the neomorph should be. A lot frigging bigger. It bit Roosevelt's head off, whatever her name is. And it used this one, but the teeth are a lot nastier looking. Now, moving him out the way, or it. Articulation. This is another praise I have, actually. This is one of the biggest praises. There's a lot to praise about this figure. The head is, because it's on a ball joint, it does rotate, but just because of the sculpt, it's going to be a bit hindered. You don't get any pivot. However, it's on a disc hinge, so you can get it really far back. That's brilliant. I really like that. It does move the spikes out of the way, but honestly, the spikes are soft rubber. They're flexible PVC, so you're not going to worry about them breaking, but jeez. And then it can go really freaking far down. Your shoulders are on your standard hinges. Let me just get the knees out of the way. So they can go forwards. Well, they can do 360 to go out to the side because they've got a hinge there. You get a single jointed elbow, which bends in really far. Like, that's pretty far. It will rotate at this end, and it will rotate at the forearm. The hands can swivel all around as well as hinge, or as Zombie Hong goes, swivel here. There is a double ball peg, so it's like a peg with a ball on each end, with a ball that connects into the upper torso and the lower torso. So, as you can see, it goes like that and like that. It goes this far back, this far forward, rotate side to side, and it will move side to side. Now, the obvious ball joints at the legs are loose. I'm going to sort that after this review. They will, and for some reason one of my thighs is a bit, one of the legs bows in a bit weird, it's a bit weird. The legs will go forward really friggin' high. They go out to the side, not so much, it's hindered by the hip blade here. And they swivel at your upper leg. In fact, if you turn it around and actually have the knees in an outward position, you can actually hide the ball joint there. Yeah, you still get a seam, and now it looks like it's got a V cut, but still. Knees have a really great joint. It is a swivel, but it's actually a double hinge. So that's how I was able to do that pose at the beginning. As you can see, it's a really great joint, and it swivels as well, and it looks fairly organic here, which I do praise a lot. And the foot is actually very different for a change. It's not a ball peg. It's a hinge with an ankle pivot. It's got an ankle pivot. How cool is that? And then here comes the worst joint. Now, it works really well, but it's designed poorly in sculpt-wise because it's a toe joint. But the big toe stays where it is. And, yeah, it just don't really work. It works well, it's just, I don't think they fully, thought in the design process. I don't think it was fully done right on paper because the big toe stays where it is. And then the tail is a bendy wire. Traditional for all xenomorphic creatures, except the Deacon, it has a bendy wire tail. And that's great. So, what are my complaints with this figure? Because I do have a few, and we do need to talk about the nitty-gritty, obviously, as that is the purpose of a review, is to be as objective as possible. I'm just getting him in a good pose right now. My biggest complaint, really, is the fact that that head is a bugger to interchange. It's a lot easier since I first did it, which I had to use a hairdryer to sort it out. But it is a problem. I can understand some people, like my good friend Nick Hostetter, Nick Knack Reviews, should check him out. He's a pretty good guy. He said that he didn't want to mess with it too much in case of breaking it, which is fair enough. Because it is like a very, very thin joint. Same with the elbows. They are very tiny joints. I do praise the quality in this thing. But I will get to that in a minute. Yeah, that's the biggest problem, is the head interchange, and that's quite a thin peg there. But it's a ratchet joint, so, it's going to have a longevity. It's going to have a long life, this joint, when it comes to the hinge motion. And that's a great looking head. The other negative is the fact that the hip joints, the hip joints aren't the worst thing in the world. I mean, they are very distracting, yes. However, I just let it go because I'm happy it's articulated in the way that it is. So I don't let that bother me. I can let that slide. I'm only letting it bother me for the purpose of this review because the purpose, like I said, objective as possible. Bloodburster here, that's what it's called. It stands now, but that's only because I folded the tail and bent it a bit. It doesn't stand on its own. You do need to do some support with it. And to be honest, I think the worst complaint I actually have with this thing is it doesn't really tower over Hicks here. And the Neomorph is, Hicks, most people are about 5 foot tall, right? The Neomorph is supposed to be 7 foot tall. And there's many videos out there of Neomorph Explained and all that from Hybrid Network and acid glow and all that. They basically explain the lore of the creature, and they're really great videos. I like watching them. Yeah, they all do the same thing, but they all explain it in a very different way, and they all cover different topics. So not all three of them have covered the Neomorph. One has covered the Neomorph, one has covered a special deleted scene where this would have been up against the prototype Xenomorph, which was the Xenomorph featured in the movie. And that was quite interesting. So they don't all do the same thing like all the bloody Vine accounts, but still, that's not the point of YouTube. We're not reviewing YouTube channels. But basically, Hybrid Network said that the Neomorph was supposed to be, I think it was Hybrid Network anyway. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I have a good feeling it is. Hybrid Network said that this thing is supposed to tower over most humans. It does not tower over Corporal Dwayne Hicks, so this figure fails in that department. It doesn't bother me super much. I can see it bothering, because at the end of the day, the figure is what it is, and there's no real change in it. But I would have preferred to see this bad boy tower really tall, like maybe be this friggin' size. The size of this big bugger here. Maybe a bit smaller, but not too much. It's small in its body frame anyway. Now for praises, because those are the only real negatives I had. Actually, yeah, I already talked about this thing not standing. This thing looks great. That's one positive. Blood paint's a bit stupid, but it's nothing you can't really fix. This guy is customizable into the throat burster version. You just have to remove the spikes on the back, and if you want it, the one that killed Rosenfeld, the one that Captain Oram shot, the one that David 8 was trying to tame, just paint blood all over his arms, all over the tail, all over the legs, and all over the mouth, and then you're pretty much done. And of course, remove the spikes, and then you've pretty much got yourself a second Neomorph. And that's the great thing, another good thing, army building. If you get loads of these, you can make custom ones, because I'm planning on getting a third one to make it look more like the concept art, with this head kind of having a bit of a weird thing in the jaw. So that's pretty cool. Again, it's planning. I don't know if I'll actually be able to do it. I hope so, because I do like the Neomorph sculpt. So yeah, you can tweak it to be the concept art, and there's quite a good bunch of concept arts in there. That's the one thing I do wish Alien Covenant did better, was having a bigger crew, having more of them get infected by the Neomorphs, about maybe 70 to 60%, and then each Neomorph having many different variations. Because Aliens, right, had so many friggin' Xenomorphs. They all look the same, mind you, but with the Neomorph, they could have all, you could have had one of them burst out a guy's chest, have one of them burst out of his head, and have it with heavy armor plating on the head. That would have been pretty cool. Or, dare I say it, have one burst out of a guy's crotch. Oh god, that would be fucking painful. Because, they burst out of the back and the throat. But yeah, you can get some weird shit with these things. The articulation of this thing is great, so But yeah, getting back to the main point, like I said about articulation, because, basically this thing can be customizable into many variants, including some of your own. The other positive, like I just mentioned a minute ago, is articulation. This thing is chock full of it. Would have liked to see double hinged elbows, but due to the fact that the figure is very tiny, very thin, as you can see by the arm. This is my finger here. You can just see how tiny it is. The joint is very tiny, so I understand it's not got double jointed elbows, but sorry. I was at a gig last night doing a lot of bloody headbanging, so I'm knackered. But basically, it's very tiny, and the elbows bend in quite far, more than 90 degrees, so the joint serves its purpose well. The tail bendy wire is fantastic. It's one of the best cases of bendy wire. I know I say that with a lot of Xenomorphs, but this guy here, look, if I bend it like that, it just does that. His doesn't. And you know what the ironic thing about this tail is? This tail is a shit bendy wire, and I'll tell you, it's like it with all Xenomorphs that share this tail sculpt. And I'll tell you why, because I have the first alien I ever got was a dog alien, right? Thick, meaty tail. The bendy wire bends so much nicer in that thing than the standard Xenomorph tails, which like the warriors and the big chaps. And I've got the AVPR style Xenomorph, the pizza monster, and that thing has a much better tail. This guy is blatantly obvious because his tail is quite thin. Another positive I have is the paint. The paint is fantastic. Is a great paint job. And, it complements the sculpt that leads us into the next positive. The sculpting is fucking gorgeous. Now, some may be wondering, and I'm going to cover this. Go home, Bloodburster, you junk. Sorry, I always like doing those jokes. Now, in the movie, it was a lot smoother of an appearance in terms of its body. The ribs didn't stick out as much, and it just looks a lot different. That's because Ridley Scott decided to do a dickhead move at the very end in the post-production, because originally this was a suit. It was a guy in a suit. However, Ridley felt to replace all the creatures, the practical effects, with fucking CGI, and in my opinion, that's just complete wank. That's a British phrase. It basically means masturbate. But, you know, don't Google that if you're underage. I know I've got a few kids on my channel that are young, but just don't. Still, so that was Ridley making a poor decision. But other than that, I do wish they stuck with the suit version, because it looks a lot more textured and better, and it looks a lot more detailed. So that's basically what this figure is based upon. It is based on the suit version, not the CGI version. You could customise it into the CGI version, I think. But am I going to say to do so? No. No. Because, like, it just looks so much better like this. You get so much detail on it. Oh, I had another thing I wanted to praise it with as well. I suppose the fact that you don't need that many to get a complete amount from the movie, because there's only 2 Neomorphs in the movie. So you only really need to get another one of these, unless you wanted to army build the feck out of monstrous animalistic creatures. These things are very animalistic, they're very feral, not like the Xenomorph, which is in some ways considered the apex predator. So yeah, that's my video review for the Neomorph. Few gripes, as always, with figures, but overall it is a fantastic figure. I highly recommend it. I love the paint in this thing. It's even got some pink hues, like, they turn better on camera, but if you see around there, like, there are some in the head. Actually, I think I'll be better showing in this head. As you can see, there's some right there, just where my thumb is. It's a great figure, great sculpting, especially on this head. This head just looks mean. Paint's great. He's kind of prattling around right now. You know, at the end of the day, he's a great figure. If you weren't the biggest fan of Alien Covenant, that's fine. I do recommend this figure because it is a great creature from the franchise. I do hope Ridley Scott gets around to finishing his story, maybe explain where the Queen came from, because I do think we need that. But I just hope he didn't go in that stupid direction of where Alien movie focuses more on AI, because it's called Alien for a reason. Anyway, this isn't a movie review, this is a toy review. Still, I've been the Archangel, reviewing this ugly fecker, and I'll see you guys in the next video. In the process, but the good news is I managed to extend that by pulling it out and gluing it in a much more forward position. This is how it is in the movie, where it sticks out a load. And this, in my opinion, looks a lot more screwed up like it did in the movie. So yeah, and the kind of teeth there kind of gives it a bit of a jacked up look to it as well. That's clear how it is in the movie, so just want to shut off real quick. I'll see you guys in the next video.